Okay, welcome everybody to today's class. Once again, it was popular last time, words, so we'll do another class on words. I'm sure a lot of you, as I have decided to keep fit for the new year, yeah, to work out and that kind of thing, or just go for a run every day to keep in shape. Now, we can do the same with our vocabulary. We need to use it all the time in order to practice and to widen our vocabulary. You need to do this in your own language and in other languages if you want to have a wide vocabulary. Hi there, Alexander. Yeah, these are all actually words that just cropped up in my lessons with a student called Alex, and they're all actually, or many of them, have been taken from the show Frasier, which is an American sitcom. It's not a British sitcom, but I would say that all of these words are just as British as they are American. We use all of them. I mean, the Brits and the Americans use these words. And please remember that if you do want to buy a book, I recommend my book, Visual Phrasal Verbs, which has got many of these words. The ones which are phrasal verbs are in this book. And you can get this book on skypelessons.com in a PDF form, or on amazon.com if you prefer a physical copy. And it's £20 for either. And the PDF has many hyperlinks. Okay, so if something happens all year round, I think this is quite an easy one. It means it happens throughout the entire year. Yeah, every month of the year this happens. So you might say, as Alex said during the class, he said that the mountains have snow caps all year round. So they're capped with snow all year round for the entire year. Okay, if you do something off the cuff, and you can see that these words that we study in other classes, they crop up during the lessons as well. So if you do something off the cuff, you do it without preparation in some kind of way. So it's spontaneous, it's improvised, you ad-lib it. There's another expression that we use for off the cuff. You ad-lib something when you do it without preparation. And yeah, you very often do it on the spot. On the spot can also be used like on the cuff, off the cuff. Off the cuff is similar to on the spot. But I want to make a point that off the top of my head is slightly different, although similar. You very often hear this in negative sentences, and what I mean is you very often hear people say, I don't remember, or I couldn't tell you exactly how much my firm earned last year off the top of my head. And that means without checking, really. Off the top of my head, this usually means without checking first. You might say, I don't know his phone number off the top of my head. But if I quickly check my mobile, yeah, I'll find out his phone number, I'll find out his email, something like that. So that's slightly different. Off the cuff is not more when you say give a performance off the cuff. I try to do all of these lessons off the cuff, and all I mean by that is I don't actually prepare my words on a piece of paper. I don't have a script. I think it's much more interesting for you guys to hear all of my mistakes, and I don't think that matters. And if you listen carefully, you will hear some, I'm sure. Now, if you jilt somebody at the altar, and I'm sure that none of my viewers out there at the moment have ever done this, so I hope that they've never done this, because I think this is really quite a nasty thing to do. This is very specific. To jilt somebody means to arrange to get married and not turn up on the wedding day. Okay, you don't show up on the day of the wedding. So this is really something that's quite nasty, and you can just say to jilt somebody. You don't have to say at the altar, and I guarantee all English people and all American people and all Canadians and all Australians, they will understand you if you say he jilted her. They'll understand it as meaning he arranged to get married but then didn't turn up on the day. Or she jilted him. It doesn't have to be the guy. She might jilt him, and it means she doesn't turn up on the day. Now, two more phrasal verbs we've put here, and we did these very recently, but let's do them again, because the more we do these phrasal verbs, the more likely they will sink in. So if you put somebody out, you inconvenience them in some way. Yeah, you inconvenience that person. It's to inconvenience somebody to put somebody out. I don't know, if you ask somebody for a very, very, very big favour and they're going to have to sit down and spend a few hours to help you with this favour, you might be putting them out. They might have something better to do and they might not really want to help you in such a big way. So you might be putting them out if you ask for a really big favour. You might be inconveniencing them. Put somebody up is very different. It means to accommodate somebody, to let somebody stay at your house. When you say, yeah, I can put my sister up for a few days, it means, yeah, she can stay at my place for a few days. That's no problem at all. Now, I want to point out that there's a slight difference here, although they're similar, between put somebody up and take somebody in. Because if you take somebody in, yes, you allow them to stay at your house, but it sounds like you allow them to stay at your house indefinitely, forever, yeah, or not for a limited period of time, and it sounds like that person or animal is pretty helpless. They need to be taken in, they need to be looked after, they need to be fed, they need to be clothed. So when you take somebody in, it does sound like you're looking after them in some kind of way. Okay? And again, all three of those are in the book, so if you want more information about those three, please get the book. Now, if you jump in or cut in or butt in, all three of these mean interrupt sometimes. Jump in not so often, if I'm honest, but cut in and butt in very often mean interrupt. When you cut in the conversation, yeah, you interrupt somebody while they're talking, you butt in. Butt in is definitely the most common, but cut in's pretty common as well. And if you look out for it in the books you read, you will find it, I'm sure. If you are exasperated, you are frustrated. That's all that adjective means. It's another adjective which means frustrated. I've actually got a video out there called Feelings, and if you type Mr. Skype Lessons Feelings into the search bar, you will find it, and you will find loads more words like this, interesting feelings words, because these adjectives, we actually have loads and loads of them, and you'll see some later today in a second. But please go to that feelings video and you'll see the whole board absolutely cluttered with feelings vocabulary. Now, vernacular, it just means ordinary everyday language. Funny really, because I wouldn't call this word an ordinary everyday word. It's rare that you hear somebody say in the vernacular, and it sounds quite formal, the word itself, but it means everyday English, informal, and not English, but any language which is everyday, the way it's spoken among people every day, among ordinary people in that sense. So if you say something like he wrote the book in the vernacular because he wanted to reach a wider audience, yeah, it just means he used everyday language because he didn't want to make it difficult for people, and he wanted to make it easy to understand. He wanted to put his message across clearly. Yeah, cut in on somebody certainly can, Marcia, you're right. If you cut in on somebody, then you cut them up. There is actually two. There are actually two. That's a very common native speaker mistake, so don't make it yourself. If you cut in on somebody, then you suddenly you overtake that car and suddenly move in front of them, or maybe even walking. It could be even walking, but usually we use it for cars, but even bikes you could do it. So it means you cut somebody up, you suddenly move in front of them. So cut in on somebody or cut someone up. I'm running out of space here. Cut somebody up. But again, both of those are in the book, so please buy the book if you want to learn more about those verbs, with plenty of exercises in that as well. Now, if somebody is a recluse or a hermit, these are synonyms. They mean a person who doesn't like society, who lives as far away from everybody as possible and speaks to very few people. So I think a lot of people can be at least partially reclusive, and that would be the adjective, reclusive. I even think of myself as a little bit reclusive sometimes, but obviously I'm not when I'm making these videos, because I'm making videos for a lot of people and I'm communicating perhaps with a lot of people. But I do like my own time and my own space, which is why I have this shed to live in. And you might say that I'm a bit of a recluse in this shed, because I do spend a lot of my time in it. Okay, if we come on to the crux of the matter, or the crux of the argument, or the crux of the problem. Crux always means the most important essential part of something. And so the crux of the matter means the main thing, yeah, the main thing, the main idea here that's really important. And the crux of the argument would be the main part of the argument, the most essential part of the argument. And the crux of the problem is the main part of the problem, the things that's really holding you back, the main hindrance. Okay, the clincher. This is quite an interesting expression, and it's very much in the vernacular. Yeah, it's in ordinary everyday English, this one. It's not formal, it's very informal, so it's spoken in the vernacular. The clincher means the thing, the final thing which makes the deal definite. And we also say to clinch the deal, which is normally used at the end of a long period of negotiations. You finally clinch the deal. If you're in Indonesia, you can go to my website, skype-lessons.com, and I guarantee if you go to that website and click buy, send me the money, it will straight away be sent to your email in PDF form. So it doesn't matter what country you're in, you can buy this book as a PDF, and it's got hyperlinks which the book doesn't have, so it makes it very convenient to use, very easy to use. So please go to the website skype-lessons.com or click on any of the links under some of the previous videos. So yeah, the clincher is the final thing that clinches the deal. So maybe you're interested in buying a phrasal verbs book, and your favourite teacher online starts to hold up and show the book, and the clincher is the price. It's only £20. So you finally decide, yes, I'm going to buy that book. It's very easy to buy. The clincher is the price, or maybe the clincher is the fact that it's available online, and so you can just go to that website and buy it right now. You can have it in 5 minutes if you want it. So that is the clincher, the thing which seals the deal. And there's another expression, to seal the deal. The thing which clinches the deal, the thing which seals the deal. That's quite nice because you've got that rhyme, seal and deal. Okay, if something is dreary, it's boring or dull or tedious, this is another adjective. I think it's great to expand the number of adjectives that you use, because adjectives are so useful, yeah, and they really do add a lot of colour to your language. So dreary means boring or dull or tedious. Now, to maul, this is very often used for lions, tigers, bears. When a bear mauls somebody, he rips that person to shreds. Look, I've got a bear on my t-shirt today. Maybe this bear is going to maul somebody, and that means rip the person to pieces. Rip that person apart, yeah? If you want a good phrasal verb, rip somebody apart. Tear somebody apart. Tear somebody to pieces, but also rip to shreds, rip to pieces. Very good expressions for when you mean maul. So this will very often be in the newspaper if someone does something silly like jump into the lion compound, and it does happen, unfortunately. That person will probably be mauled by the tigers or the lions, and it's very unlikely that they'll live, of course. And if somebody is mauled by a bear, again, it's very likely that they'll certainly suffer serious injuries, or they may be killed. Mangle is a little bit different than maul, but yeah, if you mangle somebody, it does involve serious injuries, certainly. Okay, if something conjures up memories or feelings, it just brings up memories and feelings in the person. It brings them, if it conjures up memories, it brings them back to that point in time. Okay, so conjure up is particularly memories, but also feelings. And you should also remember things can stir up memories. Things can call up memories. And that really does mean bring back memories. Bring back is very similar. Bring back memories. So you might say the smell of paint conjures up memories of my childhood. It stirs up feelings of being young again. It calls up I don't know, it calls up, feelings that I had a long time ago, something like that. But you can also stir up anger. Maybe if you like getting people angry, you might stir up anger by saying something which really annoys everybody. And so you can stir up anger, and you can stir up resentment as well. So maybe you might think that newspapers very often stir up resentment. They very often make people prejudiced or biased or against a certain group. And if that's the case, they're stirring up resentment. Now, please remember, you can also harbour resentment. That was in a previous lesson. And you can also bear a grudge. So if you harbour resentment, you feel resentful about something. And we also say to bear a grudge. There was another word in the previous lesson, but I've forgotten it. So I hope someone out there remembers it. And if they do, please write it on the phone and I'll read it and read it aloud. Okay, if you are plagued with something, it normally means that this is usually used for diseases, yeah, because plague is the Black Death, yeah. Plague is the bubonic plague, technically. It's that terrible disease that killed a lot of people back in the 14th and 15th centuries, I think. If you are plagued with warts, unfortunately, this is one of my problems. I certainly was as a boy anyway. I was plagued with warts. I had warts all around my thumb. Nowadays, my whole family, we're plagued with verrucas, which is a type of wart. So unfortunately, I've never got rid of this problem. So yeah, if you are plagued with something, it means some kind of disease is all over your body. But I want you to remember to be riddled with as well, because you can say his body was riddled with cancer. Yeah, and that means that the body was diseased and it had cancer all over the place. Yeah, that's really what to be riddled with means. But you can also say the article that I read in the newspaper, and this happens a lot, the article was riddled with mistakes. Yeah, very often, I'm not sure who is in charge of checking newspaper articles for mistakes, because when I read articles, very often they're quite interesting, but they're riddled with mistakes. Lots of the sentences don't seem to make sense. And if the sentences don't make sense, yeah, I do wonder who is in charge of editing the newspapers, because many times, yeah, the articles are riddled with mistakes, and not little mistakes that I correct in written work from my students, but glaring mistakes, obvious mistakes, where the sentence simply doesn't make sense. So yeah, a lot of newspapers are riddled with mistakes. So it doesn't have to be disease with riddled with, but plagued with usually is disease. And yeah, blight somebody with disease, that's certainly for disease. Okay, some more feelings adjectives. So please try feelings, Mr. Skype lessons. I guarantee you'll get loads more of these. If you're baffled or perplexed, you're really confused about something. Both of these two really do mean confused. Dumbfounded and stupefied means so confused that you're unable to think properly or speak properly. Yeah, so dumbfounded, confounded is also another one, but stupefied. If you're stupefied, you're either so shocked that you can't speak, so very often you're speechless when you're stupefied, or dumbfounded. Notice that dumb means unable to speak. It can mean stupid as well, but it means here unable to speak. So if you're dumbfounded, you're speechless, yeah? So shocked that you're unable to think properly. Flummoxed is an excellent one. Thank you, Dennis. Yeah, very similar to some of these. Flummoxed, I would say, is more over here than just confused. But yeah, dumbfounded, stupefied, flummoxed. Do check for some examples of these, because there are subtle differences between some of them. Now, if you describe a person as seedy, sordid, dodgy, sleazy, all of them mean morally corrupt in some kind of way. Yeah, these are very negative, certainly. I think seedy is very often used for sexually corrupt. I think you very often, when you talk about a seedy part of town, it can quite often mean a part of town where perhaps there are a lot of seedy bars and seedy places where well, you can imagine what kind of places these are. But yeah, sordid or dodgy means slightly illegal in some kind of way. Bent certainly means illegal too. If you say, yeah, a bent copper, it means a policeman who is dishonest and does illegal things. But yeah, seedy characters, sordid characters, they're criminals basically. Dodgy characters, this one's certainly just criminal. A dodgy character is somebody who's doing something criminal. And I think seedy and sleazy, they have this kind of perverse aspect where there's something sexual about them quite often. Okay, so something perverse about these two. Okay, let's come down to a harmless jibe. A jibe is a joke, but it's a joke at somebody's expense. So it's like an insult, very similar to an insult, a jibe. And when you insult somebody, an insult, you could say a harmless jibe, that collocates very well. But you could also say an insulting jibe, and it means some kind of insult. An insulting dig, a dig at somebody, is an insult that's aimed at somebody. So if you call someone a seedy character, that would be an insult, really. I mean, I don't want to really be called a seedy character or a sleazy character. These would be a dig. If you were saying this to me, I would consider them insulting digs at my expense. They are derogatory remarks. Now, some of you who watched the first video will remember derogatory remarks, yeah? Insults. Derogatory remarks are insults. And insults are also called put-downs. A put-down is an insult. Any kind of put-down is an insult. Okay, and look at these other ways of talking about insults. You can talk about a snide remark, a barbed comment. You can talk about scathing criticism. Criticism obviously sounds not quite the same as insult, but scathing really does mean ferocious criticism, really powerful criticism in some kind of way. So yeah, you could say a scathing comment, a scathing remark, a barbed comment, a barbed remark, a snide comment. They all work, and they're all nasty things that you say to people. And they're all digs, they're all jibes. All of these, they're nasty things that you say to people. Okay, and the last one for today is on what grounds, which simply means for what reasons. That's all it means. You might say, on what grounds was the president impeached? Yeah, and it means the same thing as for what reason was the president impeached? Okay, I hope that's all clear. I'm sorry I can't go into much more detail, but it's already been 20 minutes and I've got other things that I have to do today. But please, if you're interested in learning more, buy my book. You'll be supporting me, you'll be pleased to know, because obviously if you get it on my website, I actually prefer you to get it on my website. So please get it from the website if you're in a country which can't get the physical version. But I think if you go to your Amazon and type in visual phrasal verbs, I think you ought to be able to buy it from any country. I'm not 100% sure about that, but if anybody has any problem getting it in their country as a physical copy, go to skype-lessons.com and you'll be able to buy it as a PDF. And that will have lots of hyperlinks. It has all the answers, and you get a colour version. And the physical copy is only black and white version for £20, but you'll get a colour version for the PDF. Okay, thanks everybody for watching. Please like the video if you've enjoyed it, and I hope to see you all soon.